Sound is all good. I just want to make sure that we are on the same page. Okay, awesome. All right, so hello guys. Good evening to you if it's 8 p.m. Eastern or 5 p.m. Based on where you're at. I'm really excited to be doing this. It's been a long time since I've gone live, and I just wanted the chance to reconnect with you now that we're in a new year. We've come out of 2020. Now we're in 2021. It's full of uncertainty as well. And, I thought it would be great to just connect with you and to chat with you. I have my bottle of water with me. So if you have your tea or your water or your coffee or whatever you want to drink, just grab that and have your pen and paper ready. I mean, really, a lot of what I'm going to share with you today is already things that I've shared in the past that you should know if you've been following me for a while. And if you're new, then welcome. I just want to, reiterate some key basic principles that are really important that I believe in, that have helped thousands of ambitious professionals just like you to land job offers. And I think that if you understand the basics, if you understand what you need to do to make yourself more attractive to employers, to be more confident in the way that you approach your job search, you're going to have a lot more luck than people who are still looking, and if you're still looking, there's nothing wrong with you as an individual. Don't start feeling bad about yourself and feeling sorry for yourself. I know it's easy to fall into that trap, but I think it comes down to just knowing, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? What am I good at right now? And what do I need to improve on? So it's really just being more strategic about it, rather than getting all emotional. I know that finding a job and having a career is an emotional thing, because it's part of who we are. I mean, once you're in a career, you identify yourself with that, right? And I get that, but in order to get that amazing career that you deserve, that you want, despite the fact that we're in a pandemic, despite the fact that, you hear all kinds of things from people saying that jobs are hard to come by these days, I don't believe it. I think that if you know what you're doing, if you follow the right strategies, if you're willing to put in the effort, the work, if you're willing to work on yourself, and you're willing to admit the weaknesses that you currently have within you right now, if you're willing to do all of that, you can get the job offer that you deserve. I strongly believe that. So I'm going to be walking you through a few things today. Hopefully some of my tips will help you. And of course, I am going to be talking about other things that would help you that I offer, such as my programs, Top-Notch Resume and Top-Notch Interview, if you haven't heard about them already. So I'll talk a little bit about those. But today it's really just to help you. And then after I give you my tips, I'm also going to be answering questions that I've already received ahead of time from many of you. You guys sent in a bunch of questions, so I'm going to be going through those. And if I have a little bit of time left, then I'll answer any questions that I see here live. Okay, so I am super excited. If you're excited, give me a thumbs up. I don't know. So you guys say sound is good. All right. And you guys can see me and everything. Okay. Awesome. So let's just get started. I'm just going to dive right in. This is going to be more like a chit chat type video, very different from my scripted videos, essentially. So, we're just going to have a conversation. Okay. So the first thing that I want to tell you when it comes to attracting employers and making sure that you're able to find the job that you deserve, there's things that I'm going to go through, and they're all going to range from resume, job search, and interview. Okay. So we're going to talk about each, like a couple tips from each. So the first thing is I'm going to talk about your resume. My number one tip is that you cannot submit a basic high school resume. Now, I know that sounds so like, duh, I'm not going to submit a high school resume. But what do I mean by that? Think about what you learned in high school in your career class or your business class or whatever class where they teach you how to prepare a resume. You would be surprised at how many people that I come into contact with, that I work with, that tell me they still follow the foundational principles that they learned back in high school on how to create a resume now for their career, where they've been working for 5 or 10 years or more. The high school format of a resume, some people are still putting objective what your objective is, you don't need an objective. Okay, first of all, you don't need an objective on your resume. Your resume has to be compelling. It has to be strategic in the way that you write it. Every bullet point, there is a purpose to every single bullet point. You can't just tell me if you do this. Okay, let me ask you. Do you find yourself when you're preparing your resume, or when you've gotten into the process of writing your resume, do you find yourself going, okay, what do I do in my job? Oh yeah, I do that. Okay, let me just type that out. And what else do I do? Oh yeah, I organize those systems. Okay, let me type that out. Oh, and I also created that Excel sheet. Okay, let me type that out. So you're pulling things from your memory, you're pulling things from thin air pretty much, and you're dumping them on your resume. Tell me, say yes in the comments if that is you, if you're someone who's been doing that, where you've just, you're coming up with your resume on the fly. You don't really know what to put down, so you put down everything that you can think of because you're not sure on what your strategy is. Do you feel that that is you? GMB says yes. Blessed and Beautiful 83 says yep. Jeep says yes. Conta Hood says yes. Okay, awesome. So you guys are all on the same page with me here. I get it if that's what you're doing. The reason why I bring that up is because I see it all the time. This is what happens, is that when we don't have a strategy and we don't know what to do with our resume, we just put down whatever we can, and that's not the way to do it. Okay, in my top-notch resume course, I'm going to put a plug in, because I have to tell you that everything that I'm going to teach you or talk to you about today, it can only get to a certain level. The level of detail that you need is going to be in the courses if you want to take them. That's completely up to you if you want to take the course. But I just have to tell you that in Top-Notch Resume, what you're going to learn are the different sections that you need to have on a resume, and I'm going to share that with you today. But what you're also going to learn, which is even more important, is the specific bullet points. And there's so many types of bullet points that you need to have in your resume. So for example, let's talk about the sections. Okay, for your resume, you need to have 3 key sections. You need to have a profile, which is the very beginning section of your resume. Then you're going to have a professional experience section, and then you're going to have an education section, which is where obviously you talk about your education. So first of all, what goes in the profile? There are, I believe, 3 to 4, yes, 4 bullet points that need to go into your profile, and each have a distinct purpose. Okay, so for example, the very first bullet point, the purpose of that is to give the employer exactly, in a succinct, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines max, exactly who you are as a professional, what you are capable of, what technical skills you have, what's your background, and essentially you are laying out to the person that's reading the resume, the recruiter or the hiring manager. You're laying it out in that first bullet point, letting them know that, hey, you are looking for me. This is what you're looking for, and I'm describing that to you right now in this first bullet point. I know that sounds difficult and maybe convoluted as the way I'm saying it, but trust me, there is a strategy to it. So like I said, you're laying out who you are as a professional. You're laying out your experience, your skills. You're laying out what knowledge you have, even certifications or backgrounds if that's important. You're laying that all out in the first bullet point. And a lot of people don't realize this, and a lot of people don't know this. This is my unique strategy that has worked so many times for hundreds, for thousands of people, in terms of teaching them how to create their resume, so that employers and hiring managers, once they look and they see just that first bullet point, they go, oh, I want to read more of this. I want to see more of this resume. I need to figure out even further if this person is someone that I want to bring in for the interview. So that's what you need to have, okay? A profile. A profile is like a high-level snapshot. And then there are several other bullet points that come in the profile as well. And then after that, you need to have a professional experience section. So what's professional experience? Now, this is going to depend on you, depending on whether you have work experience or you are still in school, or let's say you've just graduated and you don't have clear work experience. So it varies depending on you and your situation, what you're going to put down. But the strategy is the same. The strategy there is that you are going to outline the specific responsibilities, the tasks, the duties that you've performed in those roles. But here's the catch. You're not going to pull from memory. those bullet points and start typing them out. You're not just going to sit there and brainstorm, okay, what did I do? Let me type it out. Let me just think and pull it off the top of your head, okay? You're not going to do that. Instead, you're going to rely on something else. And I've talked about this before. You'll be talking about, I'm talking about job descriptions, okay? So in Top Notch Resume, I teach you exactly what you need to look for when it comes to what bullet points you need to put down, how you need to structure the bullet points. There's a full formula for how you need to write them. Just make sure that you're including what you do, how you do it, and why you do it, okay? So you're lining up all these bullet points. And then on top of that, here's another secret that you need to know in your resume. You need to also have achievements, okay? And the thing here is the biggest mistake people make is they put achievements like just one section on their resume as if it's like a separate section all in its own. They just have the word achievements, and then they list all kinds of achievements that they've had from probably even 10 years ago or whatever, and they're just listing them all out. And here's the thing, you're not supposed to do that, at least according to my strategy and my approach. If you're going to want to listen to my advice, I advise you don't do that. Reason is because people want to know, hiring managers want to know, recruiters want to know, where are these achievements coming from? Which companies did you accomplish these achievements? Okay, where did they go? Where did they come from? So that means that you need to have an achievement section pretty much for each job that you've held. And there's a strategy for how to write your achievements too. You can't have a full-on crazy long story on your resume. You only have so much room. And another question that people have asked me is, you know, for your resume, how long should it be? I say it should be 2 pages standard, okay? Now, if you don't have that much work experience, let's say you have a lot of volunteer experience, but you don't have that much work experience, but even with your volunteer experience, it's not enough to go into 2 pages, then keep it at 1, okay? Keep it at 1, because if that's all you can do, that's all you can do. That's completely fine. 2 pages is the standard, but you cannot go, I would say, don't go beyond 2 pages. Reason for that is because then people will feel that you are not able to be concise. So here's the thing about your resume. I'm giving you all these tips and I'm throwing it all at you. Hopefully you guys are getting all this, okay? What you have to understand is that the hiring manager or the recruiter, when they look at your resume, they only spend, I would say 5, max 10 seconds reading your resume, max. You're gonna spend hours, and I know that for a fact because I've helped, like I said, many professionals create their resumes, and they tend to spend a long time working on them because they have to follow a very specific strategy. But even though you're going to spend hours on your resume, they're only going to spend 5 to 10 seconds reviewing it. But those hours that you put in, if you do it correctly, will go to good use, because in the 5 to 10 seconds, they can determine right away if they want to interview you or not. That's what happened for me when I was a recruiter. Okay, I worked as a recruiter for 3.5 years. If you guys don't know, I recruited professionals, a lot of CPA professionals, but all kinds of professionals, corporate professionals, anywhere from analyst level all the way up to C-suite level executives. And so as a recruiter, I would see thousands of resumes, hundreds of resumes, thousands of resumes a day. I don't know how many. And I would talk to lots and lots of people about what they're looking for and that sort of thing. So when I received a resume, I would take a quick look at it and I would know right away, okay, this person would be a fit for this job or they wouldn't be a fit for this job. How do I know that? Well, it came with experience, but there is a strategy for how you can write your resume so that in those 5 to 10 seconds, the recruiter is going to go, oh yeah, you're the right fit. And I actually teach a lot of this in depth in my free resume mastery workshop. If you want to check that out, that's going to be in the description box down below. But one of the ways, okay, so I've already talked to you about structure. I've talked to you about what's included in your resume. In terms of preparing the resume, what you have to make sure that you include is something called keywords, okay? And I teach more about what keywords are in the program too. But essentially, you want to make sure that you incorporate as many keywords as you can on your resume. But here's the thing. So many people love to just throw in keywords like Excel, or they'll throw in the wrong keywords, such as soft skills. Okay, so they'll say strong communication skills, strong presentation skills, strong teamwork skills, strong organizational skills. And unfortunately, on a resume, personally and professionally, I see that soft skills on a resume are not as impactful as technical skills. Okay, so you want to keep that in mind when you're preparing your resume. Wow, I just threw a lot at you. Tell me if this is helpful so far. Let me know. But yeah, I'm just going to keep going. Okay. So that's everything you need to know about your resume. Now, beyond that, when you're submitting your resume, okay, another tip that I have, tip number 2, is that for your job search, you should have more than one resume that you've created for the different applications that you put out. Okay, so what that means basically is that for every application, for every job that you apply for, you need to have a very specific resume for that application. If you are someone who right now or up until this point has been sending the same resume, exact same resume, to every single job that you've applied to, okay, let's say you've applied to 100 jobs and you just whip out that same resume, just sending it out. Oh yeah, I think I like this job. I'm going to send it out, send it out, send it out. And you're not doing anything to tailor your resume. You're not doing anything to refine your resume. You're not looking at your resume and making sure that it's actually going to attract and intrigue that specific hiring manager for that particular opportunity. Then unfortunately, you've just decreased your chances of getting called for the interview. Okay. This may be why you're sending your resume to the black hole of doom on the internet and you're not getting calls back. Why are you not getting calls back? Because your resume doesn't look like it aligns to the position. It doesn't look like it aligns to what they're looking for, what they want from you as a candidate, and therefore they're not going to call you back. So what you have to remember here is that you need to tailor and customize your resumes. Now, when I say this, a lot of people will go, oh God, I don't want to rewrite my resume every single time I apply for a job. Here's the thing. If you're doing it correctly, if you're following the right approach to writing your resume, you will not have to rewrite your resume. You will simply have to tweak it. So I always compare it to the idea of wearing a different outfit, okay? So let's say if you were going in non-COVID days, you know, when we actually had the ability to go out to social gatherings and be with friends and be with people that we worked with or whatever, we would wear a particular outfit depending on the event, right? If it was a casual event, we'd put on a certain outfit. If it was a more professional event, we'd put on a suit maybe, I don't know. So you would change your outfit depending on the event that you go to. Well, the same goes for your resume. The person is the same. You are still the same behind all of this. The person, the name and everything is still the same. The core of you is still the same. The jobs that you've worked at is still the same. However, the way that you describe those jobs, the way that you describe your experience, the way that you describe your skills is going to be slightly different. It's going to be a different outfit depending on the job that you apply to. Okay, so keep that in mind. You want to have customized, tailored resumes, but you're not rewriting your resumes, you're tweaking your resumes. The way you tweak your resumes is if you have a good top-notch resume, good high-quality resume. I say top-notch resume and automatically I think of my top-notch resume course, but a good, high-quality, compelling, attractive resume, and it's structured and it's strategic. If you have all those components and you have the right bullet points in there, all you need to do is just make a few tweaks to certain bullet points and things like that. And then there you go. You're good to send it to that other job. Okay. So what you're going to have on your computer is a huge folder, of all kinds of resumes that you've sent to different companies. That's the way to approach it. Yes, it takes a little bit more work. I'm sorry to tell you, but you're increasing your chances ever so slightly every single time that you put in that effort and you do that. Okay, because the more that you can do that, the better that you can do that specifically, you will get a higher chance of getting called back for that interview. Okay, so there you go. That's stuff about resumes. Hopefully you got all that. Now, like I said earlier, if you really are struggling with getting calls for interviews, you have to ask yourself, well, they haven't seen me yet. They haven't talked to me yet. So it's not me specifically. It's not the way I'm talking or my voice or anything that's, throwing them off. It's the fact that all they've seen so far is your resume, and yet they're still not calling you back. That means that there's something going on with your resume. There's something going on with your resume that they're not calling you back. And I'm telling you, the resume plays a key role in getting you the job offer, because the resume will then take you forward to the interview rounds, and it will take you to the final offer stage too. People don't believe this, but in the final round of interviews, the very, senior level individual that's going to give the okay on whether they want to hire you for the job, they're going to also look at your resume. It doesn't stop at that first round interview where they don't look at it anymore. They will look at it. And when they look at it, they're going to just do a double check, triple check, whatever it is, with their colleagues, with the people that have already interviewed you, to make sure that from a technical perspective, from a background perspective, experience perspective, skills and qualifications perspective, you are the right match for the job. So the resume will carry you all the way to the end. So if you don't have a good resume from the beginning, everything is shaky from there. Okay, so I can't emphasize this enough. The resume is so important. So just be sure that you have a good resume. Okay, guys, don't have a basic high school resume. I think I've made my point there. And what I would say is, I have links down below. You can sign up for my free resume mastery workshop if you haven't done that already. But if you've already seen my free resume mastery workshop and you haven't yet take it a step further, I recommend it. Okay, I recommend that you take my top-notch resume course. You can see all the testimonials of people that have learned my top-notch resume strategy on how to write their resume, and they've landed job offers from their new resume. Okay, obviously there was a process. They had to interview, which we're going to talk about soon. But I highly recommend it. Okay, so just check out the links below later on after the session is over. But I'm giving you as quickly as I can, as much as I can. We're already almost halfway through everything about what you need for your resume. Okay, so that's that. Third tip, tip number 3. When it comes to your job search, okay, and some people had asked me this question too, which was in the Q&A, so I'm just going to be telling you straight up. You need to be, beyond applying online, you need to be reaching out directly to the hiring managers and the recruiters as well. And where are you reaching out to them? Through LinkedIn and through email. Okay, so a lot of people, when they're applying for jobs online, they are sending their resumes out just, through the online systems or through the LinkedIn jobs or through Indeed or whatever, and then they forget about it. You have to do more than that. You can't be the person that only sends it out just through the online. Now, obviously, you have to send it through the online system. You have to follow the steps that they recommend. But what you also could do to increase your chances is to figure out who the recruiter is, who the hiring manager is, and reach out to them and send your resume to them as well. And there's a whole process and strategy that I teach this in for Top-Notch Resume. But essentially what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're doing more than just the basics of what everyone else is doing. Okay, anyone who's not on this hasn't heard this potentially. So you want to reach out, because even though it might increase your chances by only, a little bit, it could be the difference between you not hearing back versus you getting that interview and then you getting that job offer. That could happen, okay, if you're approaching it this way, if you're putting in the effort the right way. Now, a lot of people will then say, oh, but won't they feel like I'm being a stalker if I'm reaching out to them and I'm sending them my resume? Like, I already sent it through the online system, so wouldn't it feel like I'm being a stalker or something like that? And you know what? I would say that as long as you're not sending to the same person 10 times in a row, or sending it to 10 people in the same company or on the same team, all at once, as long as you're not doing that, you're okay. Okay, you send it once, you leave it to them. The ball's in their court. They have access to your resume in different ways, from their online system, now from their inbox, different inboxes. Now it's up to them. If you don't hear back, don't feel bad and be like, oh, there's something wrong with me, my life is over. No, if you don't hear back, it just means you don't hear back. They probably saw your resume because you gave them ample opportunity to, and they're just not looking to recruit you for whatever reason. And, we can go down the rabbit hole of thinking all those kinds of things, but you can only control what you can control. Okay. And this is something I want to talk about as well. Stop attaching your value to whether you get called back by people, by these hiring managers or recruiters. Your value is not based on that. All it comes down to is strategy. If you're doing the right things, That's all you have control over. If you're strategically writing your resume the right way, you're sending it out to the right people, and then you're leaving it in their court. And if they don't call you back, maybe it's on them, because maybe there's something wrong with them. Maybe it means that the job isn't actually fully available right now. Maybe they've put it on hold internally and they haven't told anyone, or maybe they already found someone and they're not saying anything. You don't know. So stop, saying that what you're doing doesn't work or isn't working just because one recruiter or hiring manager doesn't call you back. You want to be consistent with this. You want to do this over and over again. And if you really are seeing over a long period of time that it's not working, then you change your strategy a little bit. But this, I would say, this puts you on the right track. Okay, this puts you on the right path. So you want to be reaching out to them. Tip number 4. Now we'll talk about interviews. So we talked about resume. We talked a little bit about job search. Let's talk about interviews. I know interviews is the biggest thing. A lot of people tell me that they hate interviewing, that they're nervous, especially now. Everything is online. Interviews are all going to be virtual for a long time. I think that once COVID is over, whenever that is, then, they'll start bringing people back in for interviews, because I think it's still very important for these companies to meet you in person. What I've heard through the grapevine is that hiring managers are finding it a little bit difficult to still truly gauge whether you're the right fit for the company by just only having talked to you through, Skype or Zoom or whatever, meetings or whatever it's called, Microsoft Teams or whatever. So if that's right now, that's what's happening, is that that's what they're thinking for the future, but we don't have control over any of that anyways. So what you need to focus on is, how do I make sure that I improve the way that I present myself in interviews through having to talk to a camera, having to talk to a screen. And this approach that I'm going to tell you about is one that I've advocated a couple times already, many times actually, in my videos, and it's called the consultant approach. Okay, that is the approach that you want to take on. That's the mindset that you need to take on if you want to do well in interviews. What is the consultant approach? Well, let me paint the picture for you. There are people out there who see themselves as the lowly job candidate. Oh, I'm, at the mercy of these hiring managers. I'm at the mercy of the economy and whether these jobs are available. And, I'm just looking for a job. Like, I just want anyone to hire me. Like, I'm at their mercy. I have no control over myself. I have no control over how I think. I have no control over how I talk. Everything is, everyone else's. It's everyone else's responsibility or whatever. Okay, there's that mindset. And, I say it in a very exaggerated way and I'm poking fun at it. But if you ask yourself, if you've ever fallen into that mindset trap where you feel like the world is against you and it's there's nothing that you can do about it, and you've allowed yourself to feel that, self-pity, you need to pull yourself out of that, because you have more control than you think when it comes to interviews. You are actually the one that dictates to the hiring manager how they should feel about you based on what you say, how you say it, how you present yourself. Okay? When they are asking you questions, you're the one answering. So they're judging you based on what you say. So if you're not answering well, if you're not strategically giving the right responses, if you are not engaging, if you're not doing all the right things, if you're not using the consultant approach, which I will touch on, then it's on you. Okay? It's not really on them. So you need to pull yourself out of it, because the other perspective is that you need to see yourself as someone who does have good skills, who does have qualifications, who does have technical abilities, who does have experience that would be relevant for this job. Otherwise, why would they bring you in for the interview if they didn't think you had something to offer them? You have to look at, what do I have to offer? What is available from within me that I can offer to them that would help them in this role? What is the reason why they are hiring for this position? What problems can I solve? And if you were to think like a consultant, you would change your tone of how you talk. You would change the tone of how you approach them. Okay. You guys are still there, right? Okay. You guys are still there. Sorry, something just happened with my camera, so that freaked me out a little bit. Okay. So what is the consultant approach? The consultant approach is that you are approaching your job search. You guys still there? Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure. Thanks, Marita. Okay. So for the consultant approach, you want to make sure that you look and act and feel like you're a consultant. So what is a consultant? Okay, first of all, when your company hires someone like a contractor or a consultant to come in to help change their business or improve their business, what happens? The consultant will come in with a plan of action, with a proposed strategy on what they want to do to help the business to grow or improve, and they will lay it out. And they're basically selling their plan, selling their abilities, selling their skills to these companies. And based on how well they're able to sell what they think they'll be able to do and help them with, then the companies will then pick them. Okay. And so you have to think of yourself as someone who's basically, in a sense, a consultant, where you know that they have a hiring need. There is something that there's work that needs to be done. There's potential problems that need to be resolved. And you are the one that can do that. You're the one that will be able to handle that. So you need to approach your interviews as if you're there to let them know that you can help them, that you can reassure them that whatever problems they currently have, and acknowledge to them what you know about what problems they have or what problems may exist, that you have done that before, if you have, and explain how, and then tell them why you're fit for them and what you can do for them. So that's the gist, okay, of the consultant approach. It's really a mindset shift that needs to happen from being someone who's like, I hope you like me. I hope you pick me. Oh gosh. Oh, I don't know if I answered that correctly. Oh, versus like that versus this is what I can do for you. This is what I've done in the past. This is what I can help you with. This is blah, 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 blah. Okay. So that's the underlying mindset that you need to have going into interviews. That's the first thing that you need to address is your mindset. Then what you're going to have to do is then start to prepare for these interviews. And I've had people ask me, how do I prepare for interviews if I don't know what's going to be asked? Yes, there are many questions that get asked in an interview, different types of questions. And you need to figure out and know how interview questions come about. So I talk about this, again, in one of my other programs, Top Notch Interview. Okay, so in Top Notch Interview, just so you know the way it works, I give you basically all the common interview questions that come out in an interview, that would come up in an interview. Then I also talk to you about very complex questions that tend to come up in interviews. Those complex questions usually are behavioral questions. They are complex, in my opinion, because the answers vary each time that you're answering them. It's a unique answer. It's not a scripted sample response necessarily. There's a strategy to it. And then I also talk about crazy questions that can come up. So what you need to recognize is there are all these types of questions that come up: the common ones, the behavioral questions, and then the crazy questions. The crazy questions, like how many elephants can you fit in a fridge, like kinds of things like that. So the key here is to know what kinds of questions come up, then to understand the strategy behind answering each and every single one of them. So you do need to study, okay? You do need to prepare. You need to understand what are the questions that are going to come up and how do I answer them? And in Top Notch Interview, I actually walk you through all of that, just letting you know. I teach you exactly why the question is being asked, what is in the sample sort of framework that you need to have for the answer, and I give you an example sample response as well. So for you, I do give some videos on YouTube already that talk about different interview questions, the common ones that tend to come up, but you need to do your research, okay? So if you want to learn more, you can definitely check out my free interview strategy workshop, which again is in the link below. But essentially, you need to prepare, okay? So the key here is have the consultant approach, prepare in advance. A lot of people make this mistake of going into interviews completely unprepared, where they're just like, oh, they're just going to ask me a few questions. I just have to answer them. And what happens? Tell me if this is you. You go into an interview, they ask you questions, and then you just like how you write your resume, you start pulling answers from thin air. Things just start falling into your head and you just start, you start saying this, saying that, and you start rambling. A lot of people end up rambling. Some people end up freezing up where they don't know how to answer, or they don't know what to say. It takes them a long time to pull themselves together. But a lot of other people ramble. Tell me, say yes or say ramble if that's you. If you tend to ramble in interviews, that's got to stop, okay? You can't ramble. As soon as you ramble, hiring managers and recruiters know that. They can sense it. They can feel it because you're just adding on and on. Answers to an interview question, there needs to be a purpose to every answer that you give. There needs to be a conclusion to every answer, okay? You need to always let them know why you're a fit for them. At the end of the day, here's the secret to interviewing. If you can figure out how to answer every interview question by telling them why you're a fit for them, by answering their question in the way that they ask you, but then always always leaning it towards why you're a fit for them, that's the right way to answer it. Okay, I'm giving you like the theory side of it, which is, yes, let's say they ask you, tell me about a time that you were able to, that you made a mistake. Tell me about a time you made a mistake and how did you handle it? Okay, that's a common question. Well, that's, I'd say, a more leaning towards the behavioral complex questions that tend to get asked. And depending on who you are, your answer is going to be different from Bob, from Jane, from Joe, from Julie. Like, everyone's answers is going to be slightly different because you're not going to have the same story as the next person. But the strategy needs to be there. The strategy needs to be that you need to answer that question directly, tell the story, walk them through it, and then always end it off with why this makes sense for them, why you're a fit for them, based on what you just told them, the story that you just shared with them. You need to wrap it up, and you need to always convince and reassure them why you are the right fit for that position after answering. Okay, so there's so much more that goes into it. Like, I can't even get into, like, when I'm talking about it in my top-notch interview course, I actually write out for you the sample response that you would give. I would give out the exact, sentence 1, this is the purpose of this sentence, what you're going to say. Sentence 2, this is what you're going to say. And part 3, this is what you're going to say. And then I give you exact answers to show you how to answer them. But this is just giving you, like, as much as I can, I'm giving it to you live. You're going to need to work on that. Okay, interviews are not easy if you aren't naturally good at them. Some of us are very naturally, they find interviews are very natural, and it's easy to put together a story and pull things together on the spot and all that. Well, wonderful for you, but for the majority of people, interviewing is a very nerve-wracking experience, and it's something that you can feel very pressured, because obviously at the end of this interview is a decision on whether you're going to get this job or not, and that job represents your livelihood and your career prospects. And I know it's huge. So interviewing in itself, you shouldn't take lightly. Interviewing itself, you shouldn't just go in and wing an interview and hope for the best and hope I got the job. Like, no, you need to prepare, okay? You need to put the work in. You need to take it seriously. Like, you are your own business. You are marketing yourself. You are selling yourself. You're your own salesperson. You're your own marketing person. If you were a business, you represent everything. So you need to do the research. You need to prepare. You need to put the effort in. And you need to make sure that when you go for these interviews that you have that confidence. Because the last thing you want is to go into an interview feeling low confidence about yourself, low confidence in whether you're going to get the job offer. And guess what? Hiring managers, people in general, we can feel people who don't feel good about themselves in a way. So we can feel that there's insecurities there, and if you acknowledge it and you address it and you work on it, fine, that's great, that's wonderful. But if you are blatantly being insecure in front of them and like, oh no, and giving answers like, I don't know, sorry, and you feel like you're failing, like they're gonna feel like you're failing too. Okay, so many people come to me and they'll say, I don't feel confident, I don't feel good, and all I can say is you need to work on that. I know that sounds harsh. But just like with anything, when we were in school, if we were failing school, you had to do summer school. You had to work harder a little bit. You had to take those extra courses and then you could pass. the rest of, life in some aspects, especially with work, unfortunately is the same way. If you're failing interviews, and I hate using that word, if you're not doing well, you need to look at yourself more objectively and be like, okay, what am I not doing well? What can I improve on? What have I been ignoring? What advice have I heard that seems to be something that I can work on that I haven't been doing? Okay, what is Linda saying to me right now that I need to listen to, that I need to do? So you need to be a little bit more critical, but not from a self-judging, putting yourself down kind of standpoint. You need to be critical in terms of analytical and just look at it without the emotions and just kind of go, okay, what needs to be fixed? It's just like if you had a business and the business was going down, instead of crying about it, you have to be like, okay, if the business is going down, what's going on there? What are the holes? Is it the supply chain process? Is it logistics, or is it the sales process, or whatever? You need to look at it from that way and identify it and then work on it. I mean, you are your own business. You are your own marketing person. You're your own salesperson. So you need to prepare. Okay. So consultant approach, prepare, and you need to represent yourself. Okay. And then finally, my last tip before I jump into questions, we're going to have about 15 minutes worth for Q&A. My last tip is to have your treasure chest of stories ready. You might have heard me say this before in other videos as well. What do I mean by that? So when it comes to interviewing, when it comes to them asking you those behavioral questions, especially, tell me about a time you did this. Tell me about your experience with this. What do you know about this? Those types of questions, which happen a lot. Okay. Those are generally in the second round interview. That's when you get thrown a lot of those questions. The first round interview is usually with the recruiter, and they tend to ask very high level questions, more of the basic common questions. But then in the second round interview, where you're actually meeting with the hiring manager, maybe multiple hiring managers, they're going to grill you a little bit more. They really want to know what you're capable of, what you can do. So when you're going into these interviews, you need to have your treasure chest. Okay, what I mean by treasure chest is, in your mind, you need to already have a compartment that is already filled of potential stories that you can share with that person, with that hiring manager. They need to already be structured. They need to already be outlined in your head. You need to be able to pull from it quickly, just like you're pulling something out of a hat, like real quick. You need to be able to whip it out and show it and be like, here it is. This is my story on how I've been able to do this. This is my story on what I know about blank. Okay. Now there's a whole process on how to prepare, the process of writing the story and figuring that out. But here's a clue for you. Another secret that I want to give is that in order to figure out what stories you need to come up with, comes from the job description. Okay, the job descriptions, people aren't studying these job descriptions enough, and you need to start studying your job description more. When you are going in for the interview, you need to identify what potential stories do I need to talk about based on this job, based on what this company is looking for, what these hiring managers want from me. I need to have stories that are aligned to what the job is asking for. That's the gist of it. Okay, so you need to start doing that for yourself. Going into the job descriptions, know what to look for in the job descriptions, figure out the stories that you need to prepare those stories, and then have your treasure chest of stories in those interviews. Okay, so that's that for my 5 tips. I feel like I just rambled for 45 minutes straight. Hope you guys I haven't even checked what's going on in the comments. How are you guys doing? I see a lot of people commenting and saying lots of things. Okay, so let's jump into some of your questions. I got questions ahead of time. So to those people who were able to submit their questions ahead of time, I do want to honor those individuals. I got so many, I can't even get to everybody. So I'm going to start going down the line of some of the questions I got, and we'll take it from there. Okay, guys. So the first question is, how to restore confidence in myself when I look around, people with lesser qualifications than me land a job, but not me. Okay, so the question again was, how do I restore confidence in myself when I look around, people with lesser qualifications than me land jobs, but I'm not landing jobs? So this I've seen happens a lot, not a lot, but it can happen where, let's say someone who has maybe a little bit less experience than you happens to get the job that you went for. And there's a variety of reasons why this happens. It could be things that are completely out of your control. Maybe they were actually looking for someone a little bit junior compared to your level of experience. Maybe they didn't want someone with that much experience. Maybe they, for some reason, they wanted someone with a little less experience. I don't know. That could be a reason. But if it's not the case, and if you truly felt that you were the right fit for that job, but for some reason they didn't hire you, then you need to analyze and go back to those 3 components, well, mostly the 2 components that we talked about, which is your resume and the way that you interviewed. Okay, you need to ask yourself, what did I put down in my resume that might have thrown them off, that might have not fully aligned me to the job that they were hiring for? Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing then is also asking yourself, what were the questions that they asked me in the interview and what did I tell them? And really, you need to do this right after the interview, where when you go for an interview, you need to, right after it, write down the questions that they asked you so that you can have those questions for the next interview you go for, if it's with a different company or whatever. And you need to also recall what you said for those answers, and then what was the reaction of the hiring manager based on what you said. Your gut usually will tell you if you answered it correctly or not, if you answered it in a way that made them feel convinced and made them feel excited about you. If you didn't get that reaction from them, and this is the thing, I'm not saying that every interviewer is the same, that you're always going to get the exact same results if you do what I'm talking about. Not saying that, but for the most part, if you're doing well at an interview, you'll know it. Okay? I think that's all you really need to know. If you're doing well, you'll feel it. You'll feel it because you'll see it in their reaction, in the way that they're engaging with you, in how long they spend with you while they're talking to you, all those things, you will feel it. So you need to ask yourself, okay, where did I throw them off a little bit with what I said in terms of my answer? What could have I said differently? So you need to look at that, because that's the only thing that you have control over. You know, confidence comes from identifying where you are currently weak, where you're currently feeling frail and feeling not good enough, identifying those and then working on them. That's how you build confidence. Confidence doesn't just come from nowhere. It comes from figuring out what you need to work on and improving on it. You know, and then once you start working on it and you start improving on it, you start feeling better about yourself, and that's where confidence comes from. Okay, so that's my answer to you, whoever wrote that to me. Hopefully that helps you. Another question. Let's see, what else do people say? Do you think your advice is applicable to non-US job market or search? I get my audience, you know, you guys are all over the world. So I would say absolutely, especially because the hiring strategies that I talk about and the recruiting strategies that are used come from individuals who are normally working in, you know, westernized companies, global companies. And so I find actually that they use the same approach across the world when hiring. So yes, at the end of the day, finding a job is all about knowing the strategy and how to sell yourself. If you know how to sell yourself on your resume, you know how to sell yourself in the interview, you will be that much closer to getting the job offer. So regardless of what country you're in, where in the world you're in, it's really about knowing how to sell yourself. So yes, my advice, I would say, is applicable to you if you're outside of the US. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Linda, how do you transition from one career to another career with limited job experience in the field you want to transition to? So maybe this is you. Maybe you're going from one career, and this is, you know, you're in the middle of COVID. You're like, hey, you know what? I realize this is not my dream. I don't want to be doing this work anymore. I want to be switching careers. So you're asking, okay, how do I transition? How do I go to a different path? And I have limited experience in that. So I've helped many professionals get from one type of career path into a completely different one. And it all comes down to the way that you write your resume and the way that you talk about yourself in your interview, because the underlying theme of it all is how aligned are you? How good of a fit are you for this job that they're hiring for? Meaning, what can you do for them? What can you offer them? What skills do you bring that are relevant for them? So if you know what those are, then you can start to come up with the storylines for that. You can start to develop the bullet points for that on your resume. But the underlying tone of it all is knowing what you have, what you bring to the table that is in direct alignment and relevance to that hiring manager, that company, that position. Okay, so even if you don't have the exact job experience, you don't need it. You just need the skills, the transferable skills, and the experience that is still relevant. Okay, it doesn't have to be exact, it just has to be relevant. So now what I would suggest to you is you need to start reflecting for yourself, what do I have that's relevant? Even if I only did it 10% of the time when I was working in this job, but that 10% task is something that is required a lot in this new job, well, that is still relevant. Even if you only did 10% of the time, you're still going to talk about it. You're still going to bring it up, and you're going to let them know why you are a fit for them. Okay, so that is how you would transition. Now, I mean, I'm saying it in like 5 seconds and making it sound like it's super easy. It is not, because I know that there's a full strategy that goes into it. So again, you need to figure out how you're going to put that down on your resume, how you're going to tell the stories in the interview. But if you have that and you're able to align yourself to that position, then you're on the right path to being able to transition career paths. Okay, awesome. Another question that came up is it true that in an interview I can't be myself? Is it only what the interviewer wants to hear? Here's the thing. You cannot go into an interview sounding like a robot. You cannot go into an interview having perfectly rehearsed answers and just speaking monotone. And even if all the words you say are super eloquent, but you show no personality, unfortunately, they're not going to be interested in you. They're going to think you're maybe not the right fit, even though maybe on paper and everything you seem good, but they're going to feel like something's off. So the answer to your question is you have to be yourself. You still have to showcase your personality. You still have to showcase your enthusiasm for the opportunity. You have to showcase your positive side, okay? We are multifaceted human beings. We have, good, bad sides to us. We have crazy sides to us. We're going to show our good sides in an interview. Okay, let's just be real about that. You're not going to show your negative side. You're not going to show your hangry side or your moody side in an interview. You're going to show your positive, your enthusiastic, your motivated side in the interview. Let's just be real. Okay, so there's still a part of you that is that person, hopefully. Unless you're just a very dark and gloomy person and you can't pull yourself out of that, well, then I say work on that first, because in order to get the job in an interview, you need to come in with that mindset. That's the truth. Hiring managers want to hire people that they feel they're going to be able to work with. Who's going to want to work with someone that, is dark and gloomy and doesn't want to show their positive side? So you have a positive side, so showcase that. That's not you being fake. That's you being yourself, but just in the more positive way, and being, your friendly self and your engaging self. And as long as you're, doing all the right body language, you're looking at them. I know you can't look at them necessarily in the eye with virtual interviews, but you're doing your best to be engaged, and you're answering exactly what they're asking you, and you're doing it in a very compelling way. Then that's the approach. Yes. So yes, you have to be yourself. You can't not be yourself in the interview. But of course, the other side to it is, yes, you have to say what the interviewer wants to hear in a way, but it's not like you're saying fake answers that aren't true. You're telling them answers that you've come up with that are true for you, but you're just structuring them in a way that makes sense for them. Okay. So That's your answer to that. Okay, we might have time for just maybe one or two more questions. What else, guys? So here we go. I do get interviews, but not the job. How do I know if it's my resume or interview skills? Good question. I think this is similar to the very first question that I answered. You can't determine whether it's your resume or interview 100% when you've gotten the interviews and you don't get the job. You have to think of it as potentially both, because we never know. Oh, was it the resume that you're not getting the job offer, or was it the interview skills? You're going to have to look at both, okay? And you're going to have to improve both. So if you're getting interviews, this is the thing. So here's another secret when it comes to recruiting. Hiring managers, when they put out a job posting, they'll have, let's say, one job posting and 200 applicants will apply for that one job, right? In the end, they only pick about 5, 6, maybe 10 resumes to call in for interviews. 200 whittled down to 10. Now, in the 5 to 10 resumes, they might have 1 or 2 that they're like really banking on. They're like, wow, that resume, I really hope I'm going to rank that person number 1, rank this other person number 2, and then they rank them, rank your resume. Okay, so hopefully you're in the top 1, 2, 3. So you want to make sure that your resume is good enough to be in the top 1, 2, 3 each time, ideally. And there is a strategy for that. If you follow my program, Top Notch Resume, I do teach you my approach. Okay, so the 1, 2, 3. So you want to get into 1, 2, 3. If you're not 1, 2, 3, if you're 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, there's a chance that you're still going to get the interview, but you're likely already behind the 8 ball. You're already a little bit behind because they already have other people in mind from a resume perspective that they've ranked higher than you. And so you have to work that much harder in the interview to hopefully outpace the other individuals. And you have no idea that this is happening because, you know, you've done the right thing of just submitting your resume the right way and getting called for the interview, having no idea where you stand. But behind the scenes, this could be the case. So if that is the case, then that's why I can't say that it's just your interview skills that's not getting you the job. It could be your resume as well. Maybe you're just good enough to get that interview, but they're not seeing you as the one for the job offer. So then you need to work on the resume, okay? That's why I always work on both. And then interview skills, same thing. You need to figure out right after the interview, what did they ask me? What did I say? What was their reaction? What could I have said differently? How can I improve myself? What do I need to prepare for next time? You need to be thinking about all these things for interviews. Okay, so that is my answer for you there. And now we've hit the end of the hour. I know you guys have asked a lot of questions. So here's the thing. I've been thinking about doing more lives with you guys and answering directly your questions, you know, for with related to job search and career and things like that. And I'd love to know from you. I mean, maybe I'll send an email or something to ask you guys if this is something that you'd want more of, because I'm thinking of doing it more on an exclusive basis where, you know, we can have like a group of you, you know, join in, and I'm going to be able to be upfront with you and I, you know, still share my tips and whatnot, but answer questions right from the chat. And unfortunately today I didn't have that opportunity because we ran out of time. But is this something that you would like? If yes, let me know. Yeah, like I said, I might send an email about it to ask you, see what your thoughts are. But hopefully all of this was helpful to you. You know, I know that COVID has put us through the ringer, especially if you're in the job search, you know, right now and you're looking for a new job, you're feeling like it's so much harder. I just want you to believe in yourself that you have what it takes. You can do it. You just need the right strategies. You just need the right approach. You need to just shift your mindset a little bit differently. You know, you need to be using the right, make sure that you're listening to the right advice. And, you know, I'm not saying I'm the only one that's giving the only right advice. There's so many other people giving you advice. But that's the thing about that, is that you can look all over and you hear different things. So trust yourself. Do what you need to do. Okay, I have links in my description box that will further help you after today. If you want to sign up for my free resume mastery workshop, go in there and then check out Top Notch Resume if you feel willing. Then on top of that, I have my interview strategy workshop. It's free as well. You can sign up for that, watch that. And then if you're willing, enroll in my Top Notch interview program. And what happens when you enroll in my programs is I'm there on the other side to help you. Okay, guys. So I think that was a sign. The thing just kind of turned off and then turned back on. I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope to be able to do this again soon. Let me know if this is something that you enjoyed. And otherwise, check out my resume and mastery workshop, resume and interview workshops in the description box, and check out my programs, Top Notch Resume, Top Notch Interview. Okay, good luck with everything. Stay positive, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now.